Okay, let's get going then. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our webinar on using Xero Simple for your MTD for income tax submissions. As with the previous seminar, this is being recorded and you'll receive a link to the recording a bit later on. I'm Sarah Hill, Senior Manager of the Business Services Department, which deals with bookkeeping and software implementation and training, amongst other things.
And I'm Dan Stokes, also a manager in the Business Services Department. If you do have any questions during the webinar, there is a little Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and if you just want to pop them in there, and then we'll run through them all at the end.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so today we are going to cover the Xero Simple plan, how to link Xero to HMRC, sales invoicing and bank reconciliation, how to submit to HMRC, Xero's multi-business feature, and also how to use the Xero app. So Xero Simple is Xero's affordable entry-level accounting solution tailored for sole traders and landlords to manage compliance, and it's specifically for MTD. On this plan, you can enter up to 10 sales invoices per month. You cannot enter any supplier bills. It is not for VAT registered businesses. There are other plans available if needed. So if you are going to be on a different Xero plan, or if you have jointly owned properties, you will need to get in touch to arrange a one-to-one training session that's bespoke for you and your business. Once you've registered for MTD, you will need to link your Xero organisation to your HMRC account, and this video shows you how it's done.
In this video, learn how to set up Making Tax Digital for income tax in Xero and securely connect to HMRC, allowing you to manage and file your quarterly updates and final declaration directly from your Xero organisation. First, check your organisation's business structure is set correctly in Xero. From your Xero homepage, click your organisation name, choose Settings, then go to Organisation Details. From the Business Type drop-down, if you're a sole trader, or both a sole trader and a landlord, select Sole Trader. If you're only a landlord with no sole trade, select Person. And save your changes. Next, go to Tax, then select MTD for income tax. Step 1. Connect with HMRC. Before starting, ensure you have already signed up with HMRC for MTD for income tax using your Government Gateway account and have your Government Gateway login details and national insurance number ready. Click Next to begin the secure connection. You'll be redirected to the HMRC website. HMRC will explain that you are about to grant Xero permission to view and update your MTD for income tax information. Click Continue. The Sign In to the HMRC online service page outlines the specific information required to proceed. During the sign-in process, HMRC may also request additional verification to confirm your identity. This could include details from your passport or P60. When ready, click Sign In to the HMRC online service. Enter your Government Gateway user ID and password and click Sign In. Next, HMRC will ask you to give permission to Xero. This connection is typically a one-time setup that lasts about 18 months. Click Give Permission. Once permission is granted, you are taken back to Xero. Click Next to continue the onboarding. Now, carefully enter your national insurance number. HMRC uses this to identify you and any linked MTD for income tax businesses, so it must match their records exactly. Click Next to continue. If Xero finds a mismatch, double-check your NI number, confirm you've signed up for MTD for income tax, and ensure you use the correct Government Gateway account. In this example, we'll correct the NI number. Click Re-enter NI number, enter the correct details, and click Next. HMRC identifies all businesses linked to your NI number. This might include self-employed income, property income, or multiple businesses. Xero can manage all these income types from a single subscription. Select the business or businesses you want to manage in this organization, for example, Cook Plumbing, then click Next. Finally, choose the tax year you'd like to start keeping digital records from. In this demonstration, we'll select the 25-26 tax year, but you'll see the 26-27 tax year for the first phase of MTD when it comes in from April 2026. Click Next, and Xero completes the setup. You're now set up and ready to manage MTD for income tax in Xero. Click Go to Overview. You can immediately view upcoming obligations, review the transactions for each update, and file submissions straight to HMRC, all within your Xero organization. By keeping your records in Xero and filing directly, you save time, reduce manual data entry, and stay fully compliant with your MTD for income tax responsibilities.
So once you've linked your account to HMRC, it's time to bring your bookkeeping up to date. So I'm going to hop into Xero and show you how to do that. Okay. So this is your home page, and on here you will see your bank accounts once they've been connected and various other information like invoices that have not been paid to you by your customers yet. What we're going to do first is show you how to enter sales invoices. At this point, you might have some catching up to do as the tax year has already started. So you can enter the sales invoices that you've already issued by clicking on Sales at the top and Invoices and New Invoice. This gives you a blank invoice template for you to populate with your details. So we are going to issue an invoice for our demo customer, and you'll see that that customer is already set up in here. I'm going to date that invoice 6th of April. I can put whatever due date I like in there. I can type that in. I can say that I'm going to use one of the options already given to me. And I'm going to hop into the description. So for a rental business, this might be rent for April. And I'm going to say one of those £1,000, and you will see the total of £1,000 there. What you then need to do is click into the down arrow and approve. And you can enter all of your sales invoices up to date using that. If you were a sole trader and you wanted to enter a sales invoice that possibly showed a split of materials and labour, for example, you enter this in exactly the same way. So you would go to New Invoice. I'm going to invoice my demo customer again. And this time I'm going to say materials was £150, and you'll see I've got another line here. So I could say labour 5 days at £200, and it just keeps adding rows that you can choose to use or not use. We'll scroll back up and approve. You can also create and send your invoices directly from Xero. So instead of you having to print them out and post them or save them to PDF and email them yourself, what we can do is create another sales invoice. Poor demo customer owes me a lot of money at this point. And I'll select approve and email. What you will see now is from the contact, it has pre-populated the email address. You can also just type in there if you want to. And Xero has handily got a template already loaded up, and it pulls the information from the contact and from the invoice. You will also see what they will see. And if you are happy with that, then you can send the email. For some reason isn't showing. Once you've sent that email, you can then see that that invoice has been sent to your customer. If you send invoices to the same people for the same amount each month, so if you have a rental property business, you can create a repeating invoice. You can select how often you want that invoice to be generated. You can say when that invoice is going to be due, so a certain day in the following month, a certain number of days after the invoice date. And you can optionally select an end date where the invoice will stop automatically generating for you. You can set that to automatically approve or automatically approve for sending. And if this is the case, Xero will automatically email the invoice out to your customer. The setup is the same. Your invoice to reference could be rent, for example. Rent in advance. And we can save that. And what that will do is give you the email that it's going to send to your customer every month, and you can click done. And you don't have to touch that again. You will also see in the sales invoicing that you can tailor your invoices. Let's choose this one. With your logo, your payment terms, your bank details. So that is what your customer will receive. And you can download that PDF and send it yourself if you want to. But obviously, if you want to save a bit of time, we'd recommend that you get Xero to send that for you. Let's go on to the bank reconciliation then. If we move to our home screen, which is the screen we started on. We mentioned on the last webinar that Xero can link directly with your bank via something called bank feeds. So this is a one-way connection whereby the bank will send to Xero each day the transactions that took place, usually the previous day. Some banks are more up to date, but it's usually yesterday's transactions that come through. Once you've added your bank account to Xero, to connect your bank feed, you need to click on Connect Available Bank Feed and then follow the on-screen prompts. So it depends which bank you're with as to what information you will need. Some banks, you need to do it on your mobile. Other banks, you can go straight through. Once that's connected and some transactions have been sent through, you'll see this blue button telling you that you have some items to reconcile. If we click on that, you will see on the left-hand side, this is all of the transactions that the bank has sent through. And on the right-hand side is where you tell Xero what to do. What Xero will first try and do is match the transactions that you have already entered. So your sales invoice, for example. What Xero is looking for is the bank has said you've received £1,000. We have a transaction here for £1,000. Is this the right one? I can tell from the dates here that it's not selected the right one because it is looking purely at the amount. So you do need to be careful when you're matching. I'm going to click on 3 other possible matches found, and I know that it's that one there. Once I'm happy, I can click OK, and that transaction is reconciled. We just scroll down slightly. I know that this Majestic Contracting money received is for sales invoices, but it hasn't found it. The reason Xero hasn't found this is because it is looking for £450. And I know that that is paying multiple invoices. So if we click on Find and Match over on the right, I can search which customer, and I can see here that it is for these 2 invoices. We click OK. What this is suggesting is this invoice here is dated after the payment. So again, you need to be careful when you're entering your backdated invoices that you select the right date. You can, however, just confirm that and reconcile that transaction if you're sure that it's correct. Wilson Online Periodicals, unfortunately, only paid part of my invoice. So again, I need to find and match that invoice, find the invoice that they were meant to pay, and I need to split this transaction. If I click on Split, Xero automatically allocates a part payment of £35 and leaves £5 remaining on their account. Click on Split again, we're happy with this, and we click OK. Now, this one doesn't happen very often. This has come in, and they actually only owe me £150. So again, we use the Find and Match button, find the invoice that they were paying, and this time we want to create a new transaction to record the overpayment on their account. We click on New Transaction and Receive Money, and we want to receive this as an overpayment. This needs to go on my demo customer's account because it's them that have overpaid. And we save that transaction once we've got a description in there. So again, I'm happy with that, and I click OK. You can, of course, just create transactions as you go along. So if you're a business that doesn't issue sales invoices, that might be the case. And to do that, you leave it on Create on the right-hand side, and you populate the who, which is the name of your contact, the what, which is the account that you want that transaction to go to, and optionally, why. Why was this money received? Why was this money spent? So if I look at Central City Parking, so my business does a lot of travelling around to clients, a lot of business meetings. So spends a lot of legitimate, business money on parking here, there and everywhere. So I'm going to say that that is central city parking. You'll notice I'm just starting to type travel. You don't need to remember all of your codes. You just need an idea of where you want it to go. And then I'm going to say parking for meeting and OK. You'll see now that all of the central city parking transactions are populated with that same information. That's because Xero has taken what we've put in there and suggested that they might all be the same. What I can do is make that list slightly shorter by searching central. So I've got all of my central city parking transactions together, and I can click OK on all of those because I'm happy. We go back to the screen with everything else left on it. You might say, okay, that's great, but I know I've been told before that I can enter or include a copy of the invoice on Xero digitally. To do that, you would need to click on Add Details. You can enter your transaction. And then up here, there's a little document button. You click on there and you can upload files. Find that on your computer. And it's uploaded that. And you can see now that one document has been added. You can add multiple documents to that. That's helpful because we can see that our end as well when we log into your Xero. So we're not asking you for a load of paperwork to be dropped into the office when we do your tax return. HMRC have also confirmed that digital copies of invoices are just as valid as the physical copies. So you might be able to save some space there and get rid of the actual invoices. We're going to save this transaction and click OK. Now, this invoice here, this receipt here of £1,500 might be from a rental agent, and actually the rent that they've paid over to us is £2,000. So again, to recognise the rent and the costs associated, we would add details and then use multiple lines. So let's just change that to my demo customer. Rent received, £2,000. And then they've taken all of their lovely commission, minus in their agent fees. We then save that transaction, and that £1,500 that we've just entered matches with the bank transaction, and we can click OK. We also have here a bank transfer. So if you have multiple bank accounts, if you put some money aside for your tax, or you have a savings account, things like that, you can transfer that money in Xero to the other bank account by clicking on transfer. You can then select which account you want it to go to. Once you're happy with that, you can click transfer. If you haven't yet split your transactions between a personal bank account and a business bank account, and some of your personal spending has come through on your bank feed, you can still leave that in Xero, but we would say this is personal spend, and this will go to drawings. Once we're happy with that, we can click OK. And once you've finished reconciling your bank, you get a nice big green tick. If, on the other hand, you spend personal money on business transactions, you will see from our home screen that I have set up a bank account called cash or personal funds. To record things that you've paid out of cash or paid out of your personal bank account, you would need to click on these three little dots and either spend money or receive money. So some clients, customers might give you cash. We're going to spend money. And we're going to say that that is materials. So you can either say it's materials in your contact, or you can say Screwfix, for example. Materials, £25. Something like that. If you're not sure what code you need to use, you can use the down arrow and just scroll. I'm going to put this to purchases and then save. And that means that that spend that you've made personally is now in your figures. Once you've entered all of your transactions for the period, you're going to be ready to submit your return. And this video will show you how that is done.
In this video, we teach you how to file your Making Tax Digital (MTD) for income tax returns in Xero, so you stay on top of your tax obligations throughout the year. Before you start, make sure all business transactions for the period are entered and reconciled in Xero. This helps ensure your return is accurate. From the Xero dashboard, go to Tax, then select MTD for income tax. On the MTD for income tax overview page, review your to-do list to see which returns are due. Under tax obligations, you'll see each upcoming quarterly return and your final declaration, along with their due dates, to help you stay compliant. Once you've submitted your first quarterly update, check the tax calculation panel in the top right. This helps you keep on top of your tax obligations throughout the year, so there are no surprises. To start your first quarterly return, click View next to Send Q One-End Update. You're now in the Income and Expenses section for the current quarterly return. Here, you'll see your business income and expenses for the quarter grouped by the tax categories provided by HMRC. Xero automatically maps your chart of accounts codes to the relevant tax categories. To review any total in more detail, click the appropriate tax category to see which chart of accounts codes are included. To drill down further and see the transactions that make up the amount, click the figure to open the Account Transactions report. Make any changes needed, then return to your quarterly return. Use the menu on the left to add any allowances and adjustments. If you've received savings income or interest in the period, go to Savings and Interest, then review and update the details. Once you've reviewed everything and you're ready to submit the quarterly return, click Send to HMRC. Xero displays a message confirming you're about to send an update to HMRC. Review the information, then click Send Update. Once the submission is complete, you return to the overview page where the status of the quarterly return shows as filed. HMRC performs a tax calculation based on the information you've provided. You'll see this reflected under the tax calculation. It can take up to 1 hour for HMRC to update the obligation status in Xero. On the left-hand side, under Tax Report, you'll see a set of reports detailing the information HMRC has used in your tax calculation. Click into a report to see the details. The summary shows the information HMRC has used to calculate your tax obligation. It includes income from your trade and property, your pay details, and any other income received. Use the arrow to move to the next report. Here, Xero shows your personal information. Review it and check that it's correct. Move to the next report to see your self-employment income details. This shows the business information provided to HMRC. The final report shows details of your UK savings and interest. Select Messages on the left to see any errors, warnings, or general messages that need your attention. Now you're ready to file your quarterly MTD for income tax returns in Xero with confidence and stay on top of your tax throughout the year.
Some of you watching today might have both property income and sole trader income, and Xero is equipped to deal with that by using something called tracking. Tracking is Xero's way of letting you segment your data between income streams. You can also use this to segment between properties if you only have property income, but that is optional. When you enter your transactions onto Xero, you'll have an additional field to select your tracking option from. So let me just hop back into Xero and show you how that works. Okay, so to set up your tracking categories, we go to Accounting and Accounting Settings. Here you will see Tracking Categories. We'll click into there. And we will add a tracking category called MTD for income tax. And in here, I'm going to have my sole trader business and some properties. Now, you can have many category options in here. So if you have multiple properties or multiple businesses, you're all covered. We're going to save that and head back to our sales invoice screen to begin with. Now, when we create a new sales invoice, you will see there is an additional field here called MTD for income tax. And when you've populated your sales invoice, you can select what that income relates to. So I'm going to say this is my sole trader income. I'm going to just approve that for my demo customer. I'm going to skip that credit. This is the same person that overpaid me, and that is now saved onto their account. The same is true for if you are doing a bank transaction. So if we do a personal spend again, we spend money, you will see an additional field here that you can select. And also on your bank account, I'm going to this one for now. I'm going to pretend that this transfer isn't the one we dealt with, and I'm going to create a transaction, and you will see down here again, you have your tracking options. So let me come out of Xero and show you a video on how that works for your MTD submissions.
I'm going to show you how to manage MTD for income tax for multiple businesses out of one Xero subscription. The functionality is powered by tracking categories, an existing Xero feature that allows users to allocate things like invoices and bills between tracking categories within an organization. So we'll start there by heading to the organization settings and scrolling down to find tracking categories. We can see one's already been set up for reporting purposes, and that's fine. We'll leave that as is and create a new one for MTD-IT. So we'll create that tracking category along with some tracking options for our self-employment business and the 2 properties that form our UK property business. We'll save those and look at how to assign transactions to our new tracking options. So we'll head into invoices and we'll jump into this one where you can see our tracking category is available, and within that, the tracking option we want to assign to it. We'll select the self-employment one, approve the invoice, and jump into MTD for income tax from the tax dropdown. The onboarding process is mostly the same as it is for single businesses, so we'll breeze through the HMRC connection, enter our NI number, and we can see that's pulled down a self-employment business and a UK property business from HMRC for that NI number. We'll select both of them, confirm which tax year we want to connect them for, and that's onboarding done. We can see both of those businesses appear in the navigation, tax obligation list, and our to-do list for sending quarterly updates. You can also see a task for configuring tracking categories, which will take you straight into settings to do just that. But if we did attempt to send an update before that's happened, you'll also be prompted on the income and expenses page for that business too. So let's get that sorted so we can send our first update. From the MTD for income tax settings, we can see the 2 businesses we connected to this organization. Starting with the first one, we can see both tracking categories that we saw earlier are available for selection, so we'll pick MTD-IT. We can also pick from the tracking options we set up for that tracking category, including one for unassigned, which will pull through all transactions that haven't been assigned to a tracking option. But for now, we'll select self-employment. Then, for the UK property business, we'll choose from the same tracking category, but this time select the other options we set up for each of our properties. Everything's looking good, so we'll hit save, and that's it. The tracking categories and options have now been configured. Now let's head back to the overview where we can see the configuration task is no longer there, and proceed with sending a quarterly update. Now that it knows where to get transactions from for this business, we can see our tax category totals, which have taken in all the transactions we've assigned to the relevant tracking option, including the invoice we saw earlier, and the update is now ready to send to HMRC. So we'll go ahead and send that, and see that all that's left to do is repeat the process for the UK property business. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and we hope that you like the new multi-business features for MTD for income tax.
And last but not least, Xero do have an app you can use to keep on top of your postings as well. So it's only right I give you a quick demo of how that works. In true Blue Peter style, here's one I prepared earlier.
The Xero app makes it really easy to keep up to date wherever and whenever you want. So it's great for people who can't afford to be tied to their desks. It is worth noting, though, that you can't do everything on the app that you can do online, so you won't be able to file your quarterly submissions from here. You will see your homepage, which shows your overall cash balance, your bank accounts, your outstanding sales invoices. If you have a Xero plan that lets you put bills on, then your outstanding bills are here, your profit and loss, and your cash in and out. I'm going to show you how to enter a sales invoice from this screen. You will click on the plus sign and then invoice, and we are straight in. I'm going to create an invoice for my demo customer, and I'm going to date it the 1st of April. I'm going to add my item, which is rent for April, my quantity, my amount, and I'm done. I can then email this directly to my tenant or customer from my phone. Perfect. Once all your sales invoices are on, you're going to want to reconcile your bank account. To do this, select the bank account that you want to reconcile, and you will see your bank transactions on here. This is sorted by date, newest to oldest. You can also sort by payee or amount. I'm going to go ahead and change this to oldest to newest to replicate what we've seen online. Xero has suggested a matched invoice and I'm happy with that, so I'm going to go and click OK. I can also find and match my Majestic contracting invoices by clicking on the three little dots and find and match. Selecting the invoices that I know this payment is for and match. Similarly, I can also reconcile my Wilson Online Periodicals payment. This time, I'm going to select the invoice and then record a part payment. This will leave £5 outstanding on their account. Unfortunately, we were unable to reconcile overpayments at this time. I can create a new transaction by clicking on Create New. I'm going to say that this transaction was for parking, and I'm going to categorise it to travel. If I had the receipt, I could click on Attach Files and either take the photograph, or if I've already taken the photograph, I can choose it to attach to this transaction. Click on Save, and there we are. Just like online, if I then search for Central City parking, Xero has suggested that all Central City parking amounts are for parking and travel and subsistence. I'm happy with this suggestion, so I'm going to go ahead and say OK to all of those. I can also deal with my bank transfer from the app by again selecting the three little dots and transfer. I'll then select the account that the transfer was to or from and click Done. So you'll see just how quickly you can get everything up to date using the Xero app.
Right, we have a bit of time now to run through any questions that have come through. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, Dan, what have we got?
We've got a few questions, to be honest. So we've got one that says, do we need to enter all data from 25-26 year or only from April 26 onwards?
Only from April 26 onwards. Yeah, you can enter it from the 6th of April if your reporting is set to tax quarters, or you can have it set to calendar quarters and you would do 1st of April onwards.
We have got a few that I think we can probably cover off at the same time. So do I need to create a sales invoice, or can I simply enter the sales from my bank receipts?
Yeah.
Which then also flows on to, we had another question which said, what happens if you have a rental agreement and they pay each month but you don't send invoices, and as the agreement covers the start of tenancy? So I think we could cover that at the same time.
Yeah.
And also slightly different, but it will be the same process that we need to follow. So mentioned that the package does not cover bills. How do we enter bills issued to landlords for plumbing, electrics, etc.? Do I have to add an invoice for the third party as well, or do I get this checked at the year end of time? So I think all of them are under the create option on the bank.
Yeah.
And then we can upload and attach either a purchase invoice or a sales invoice, or obviously if it's the instance where it's the rent, then we could just put a description of what period that rent covers.
Yeah,
in the description.
definitely.
So that's all under the create option in the bank.
Yeah, you don't need to enter a sales invoice. That was just for those of you that do want to enter sales invoices onto Xero, but yeah, you can do everything through your bank.
We did have one that says, what happens if you want to enter bank details manually?
So assuming you mean the transactions, so you can enter them all in the same way that I showed you how to enter the personal transactions, just making sure that you are selecting spend or receive money on the business bank account. You can also, if you don't want a bank feed, you can download from your bank online a CSV. You would then need to download a Xero compatible CSV from Xero, populate that with the details from your bank download, and then you can upload that into Xero. That will then give you the same list style as with the bank feed. So on the left, it would be everything that you've imported, and on the right, it would be everything that you need to tell Xero what to do with it. Obviously, that's a lot more time consuming than connecting the bank to a bank feed. So we would always recommend the bank feed option.
So we had another one that was, I traded last year, but retired on April the 1st, 2026. Do I still need to do an MTD return?
That would be a question for Paisley. I know that if you were caught last year and it was exceptional and you don't anticipate being caught by it this year, you do still have to do it. But I will get Paisley or one of the tax team to come back to you on that specifically.
So then we have got another one saying, can we use tracking categories on the bank reconciliation screen, which I think came through before we actually did it. So yeah, you can on the right hand side at the bottom left of the right hand section, it will give you your tracking categories for any bank transactions. Yeah, so what if costs relate to all tracking categories? So for example, a phone bill, so it relates to your self-assessment and also a property, for example, so it's not specific to one of them.
Good question.
It did say there was the uncategorised transactions.
There
so
was.
You can leave it and then just allocate it to self-assessment, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, anything that you don't categorise will still appear somewhere in that configuration section of Xero when you go to do your tax. I would say that you would need to do it to allocate it somewhere. If, for example, it's 50-50, then when you do your spend money for your telephone bill, you can do the multiple lines like I did with the rental income on the bank, and you can do, say your bill was £100, you could do £50 and then allocate it to your property income, and then £50 and allocate it to your sole trader income and split it that way. And then 50% would go on your sole trader return and 50% would go on to your property return.
We have a question about credit cards. So I use a credit card as cash flow for all business purchases. Can I just print that?
So there's a couple of ways you can do it. If it's a personal credit card and you're using it for business, you would need to bring in the transactions via the cash/personal spend option. If it's a business credit card, you can, for most credit cards, connect a bank feed to credit cards as well. And then when you see the payment for that going out of your bank account, you will simply do a bank transfer like we did with the savings account. So you would do a transfer to your credit card account. And on your credit card account, you would need to categorise all of the transactions like we did on the bank. Or if you don't want to have a feed for your credit card account, when you see the credit card account being paid off, at that point, if you click on add details, you can use the multiple lines to record all of the different spend categories on your credit card. As long as it adds up to what the payment was at the end, you'll be able to reconcile that.
One regarding income. So can you split rental income received 50-50 with my wife and Xero app? So I imagine the wife and this person own the property jointly and they have 50-50 split. Yeah.
So to show you that, we would have to set up a one-to-one training session. But yes, in Xero, when you set up the tax side of things, you can tell Xero that you only own 50% of the property, and then you can allocate the other 50% to wife. And then within your Xero organisation, then you would have if you have property and sole trade, you would each have a submission to do, but out of the same zero account. So potentially, if you're 50-50 with a partnership trade and 50-50 with property, then there would be 4 submissions that would need to go through the 1-0.
So we've got another question about bank feeds. So can you just delete transactions that are personal if you have a bank feed?
You can do, however, you won't be able to then see whether the bank statement balance in Xero that was shown at the top of the screen reconciles back to your bank balance, your physical bank balance. So I would recommend posting them to drawings instead of deleting them.
Question about VAT registered companies. So can you use Xero Simple, or do they need to be on a different subscription level? So they'd have to be on a higher subscription level. So yeah, if you could contact us about that, we can talk to you about different subscription levels. And then one more at the moment. So receive rental income from a letting agent after all deductions such as fees and bills. Do I still need to show all of these deductions, or do I just enter one final figure?
Yeah, so you do need to enter all the deductions. So like I showed you with the £1,500 on the bank, I said £2,000 of that was for the rent, and then I deducted off £500 for agent fees. If you've got multiple deductions, for example, they needed to call a plumber or they've had to do some sort of repair work, then yeah, you can keep adding negative lines until you get back to what the agent has actually sent you. You do need to do that split so that it appears in the correct part of your submission.
At the moment, that's all the questions. So unless we have any more come through in the next couple of minutes, I think that's us done.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, thank you for coming. If you do have any further questions, or if you'd like us to set up your Xero or do some more in-depth training, for example, with jointly owned property or VAT registered businesses, then don't hesitate to reach out and contact one of us or your relationship manager or director. Or if you've looked at this today and thought, I don't want to be doing that, then we can do it for you. So again, get in touch. Thank you then.
Thank you.